recovery team. It's August 11th, 2020. Reminder that this meeting is being recorded. I'll start out. Sarah sends her apology. She can't be here this morning. And so I'm going to just pass on a couple things about CARES Act funding that, everybody knows that it went in front of the commission for the first time last Wednesday evening. So the commission, for those of you that did not tune into that, the commission was very appreciative of the work. They acknowledged that there was quite a intensive time by all to get those proposals in front of them. Overall, where we sit today, it's at the direction is that there needs to be more funding, more proposals in RSF1, Economic Recovery Group. So you'll see some changes proposed when they meet again tomorrow in RSF1, which means there needs to be some changes in other groups. RSF4 will look different. The commission is going to consider a per pupil process. So we reached out to all of the superintendents of schools as well as the private schools and got their student population count for 19 through 20. And so they'll have that information to consider. Probably won't see a lot of change in RSF 2 or 3, but there may be when they meet tomorrow. So tomorrow, the commission's having a work study session at 4 p.m. You can get on the county website if you want to listen and click the link there. There won't be any public comment during that first meeting. They'll also talk about it again at their 5:30 meeting, where there will be an opportunity to have public comment. And then they're holding a special meeting Friday morning, Friday morning the 14th, this Friday morning, and hopefully get to the point where they can take action on the proposals because they'll go to the state on Monday, the 17th. And so I would say, is Jill or you're on, Brooke, what would you add to those comments?
I think you did a good job summarizing it, Robert. I think we'll have to see how the conversations go on Wednesday and Friday, and we'll have a better sense of where we're at. But yeah, I know we have a hard deadline that I know Brooke is very aware of.
Very, very aware of. This is Brooke. I do not have anything to add to Robert's brief about the proposed budget for the CARES Act funding to the commissioners. I do have a round 2 update for you guys. Secretary of Commerce David Toland sent out an email today about the economic development and connectivity grants that will be offered to businesses in Kansas. So just to give you guys an idea of how much money is going to be pushed through these initiatives. The EcoDevo portion of round 2 was adopted by the State Finance Council at the end of July, and that was to the sum of $78.6 million. $61.5 million are going to go for business retention and expansion. So these are grants for small businesses. I have forwarded the information to the RSF1 coordinators for the meeting that's going to be held tomorrow by the Department of Commerce. They're also including with their grant portal, it's called Back to Business, the connectivity piece, which I believe was approved by State Finance Council yesterday, and that is roughly $60 million. So that application process for our local small businesses that will go live this Thursday at 4:00 p.m. The Department of Commerce expects to get tens of thousands of applications and in a very quick period of time. So hopefully we can get that word out to all of our local small businesses so they can put in for those grants. So I just wanted to update this group about that process, and it's going to happen this week. So I'll stand for any questions about that.
Hey, Burke, this is Bonnie at the chamber. Is there still some question about the eligibility of businesses if they've received money prior to round 2?
Yeah, the Secretary Toland, he indicated that each application for each business model will be different. And I know that when it comes to money received from the federal government, there should never, ever be any duplication of funds. So if a business received money for, one initiative that they have, then they shouldn't then apply for any additional federal funding for the same thing. So that's a really good question, and each individual business will know exactly what they've received and what they're using it for. But yeah, they should definitely be cautioned that any duplication of funds is not okay.
This is Steve, and I think one of the interesting things will be is I think that probably I know that there's going to be some sort of prohibition or fail-safe on that particular issue, but no one has really seen the final number as to what that amount will be that forms this threshold above which you can't go and still receive money in this upcoming round. So that hopefully will come out tomorrow in that webinar. I think that's going to be very important, and we're already pushing information out on it to folks in the community so people are aware of it. I think the other thing that's going to be interesting is there's going to be several different buckets in the economic development business assistance piece. There will be monies for people who have sustained losses. There's also going to be money for not-for-profits at some level. There's also going to be some funding that's set aside for companies who are making PPE or COVID-related items from a production standpoint. And there's also going to be a bucket for research related to COVID. So, and I think the small business grants for people who have sustained losses is probably the one that will be the very rapid intake, very quick turnaround, similar to what they did with the state did with the HIRE program earlier during the pandemic, when they had $5 million and they made, they took applications, made decisions, and within like a 2 or 3 day period, and got $15,000 grants or funding out to the number of companies that they could provide support for. My understanding is that some of these other buckets will be much more competitive, that they'll be reviewed more like a normal or regular project would be, with a little more scrutiny. And so there's a lot yet to be known, but hopefully the webinar tomorrow will be informative and put people on the right path to know what's going on and how to proceed.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. And not only that, but the website that they have been developing over the past month, and that they're going to release this application process to on Thursday afternoon. The applications are all right there in that same location. So my understanding is that there's one application for PPE, and it's based on the number of FTE at the business. And then there's another application process that is geared more towards that revenue loss. So you might find that you have one business that is applying for 3 separate grants depending on their business model. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to learning a lot more about that tomorrow.
This is Diane. Thanks for the info, Brooke. I asked if Jillian would share it out with our economic impacts group, and then we'll also send out an email for any people who had registered with our RSF through the through the round one funds application process. But I wondered if this is an example of something maybe where we could utilize the PIO group to help us get the word out in a coordinated way that then all of us could share out. The real challenge with this, I think, will be making sure that information gets out to the business community. And I just wondered if that might be of help. At least it helps get a coordinated message that then we can all respectively share.
Hey, Diane, I saw Carrie's message in the chat, and she said Lindsay Slater is leading the efforts, and then the PIOs will share the information from her. So it sounds like that's in the works now. Thanks for the
Great. Thank you, Carrie.
It's already been sent, actually.
And Diane, that email went out this morning as well to the team.
So I would throw it out to this group to maybe think about how or if some collaboration can happen with round 2 and 3. If we want to bring some of that to this group, maybe just be thinking about that as we move forward. Anything else or any questions about where we're at with CARES Act funding before we move on? I would suggest, I know last week we talked about going back to the every other week meeting schedule, but I would suggest that we meet again next Tuesday and then start from that point on. And so that if we can wrap up what actually went to the state and answer any questions that you guys may have, if that's agreeable to everybody. I see a couple up and down, I don't see any back and forth. So, okay, good, thank you. We'll plan that. And then let's just see what other work's going on in recovery. If we can go around the table, Steve or Diane for RSF1.
Just real quickly, again, I think the big thing for us right now is kind of the finalization of the County CARES Act, and then making sure that we do whatever we can to help support and promote information regarding the Sparks round that's opening up on Thursday, to make sure the business communities throughout the county have knowledge of that and have access to all the information and support that they need to make that application. The other one thing I wanted to mention is we've been talking about our economic metrics for RSF1, and we got a pretty good set recently from the folks, Donna Ginther and the folks at IPSR that we're reviewing, and I think it's probably pretty close to what we'll end up with. So hopefully by the next time we have a meeting, we may have finalized that, and we'll have our economic metrics kind of lined out. They've been helping us with that, and I think we've made some pretty good progress in the last week or so. And that would be it from me. Diane?
Thanks, Steve. I don't have anything additional to add.
Thank you. Any questions or conversation for RSF1? I'm not sure I see anybody on for RSF2, unless they're on the phone. Tracy or Beth? Got a phone number.
This is Beth. I just got on, Robert. I'm sorry.
Okay.
What were you asking us
Yeah,
to
so we just we opened up with some conversation around CARES Act, and now we're just going around the table to talk about anything else going on in your section or in RSF2.
The short answer is no as an RSF2, but every one of the organizations in that RSF are busy caring for people impacted by COVID. And we've just worked basically the energy, the attention prior to, since our last meeting has really been around refinement of our ask of the county as we've evaluated round $2 and have done that directly with Sarah and Brooke. And then we've gone to every other week, and we have a meeting this Thursday, which will focus for us on our looking at the nature of our equity impact analyses and an ongoing conversation about those with respect to when granted funds from the CARES Act monies, how we will execute to those funds and in a manner that we identified as impacting and raising equity across our community.
Thank you, Beth.
Uh-huh.
Anybody have any questions for Beth or any conversation around RSF2? Jill, you want to brief us on what you guys are doing?
Sure. We, RSF3, had our regular meeting yesterday, and in addition to just answering questions from some of the groups, the organizations around where we were at with round 1 of CARES Act funding, we talked a lot about, we dove back into our focus areas, our 5 focus areas, and really just got into a discussion about what is being observed in the community with regard to evictions and the increasing pressures on individuals and families trying to pay rent and mortgages, and understanding how all the different organizations can work together to best serve these families. And I just want to put another plug in with this group that there is a program, the Housing Stabilization Collaborative, that's being led by Tenants to Homeowners and Family Promise, that if there's any questions that you're getting from individuals or families that are looking for assistance, that would be the program I would direct them to. The funds for that program are rapidly dwindling. The requests for assistance continue to go up. And I just feel like I feel compelled to share that elevate that with this group, because beyond the funding that's available through that program, and they have submitted a request through RSF3 that it will hopefully be included in the final plan. The funds are really the only tool that we have in our toolkit to support those individuals at this point. So I think it's important just to keep that on the radar screen of all the folks in this group, because it's related to all the areas that we are all working on. And that kind of led to just some other ideas around how we can strategically look to other ways that we can prevent evictions moving forward into the rest of the year. I would just also say there's a lot of interest in those round 2 funds from the not-for-profits. Brooke mentioned that the eligibility of those went in her comments, and so I'll be sharing out information regarding the webinar to our Human Services Coalition, which is really just an extension of RSF3, to make sure that all those folks are aware of that, because there are some potential opportunities for a lot of those not-for-profits. And then the other thing that there were questions about is just trying to make sure that all the agencies, particularly the congregate site shelter organizations like DECA, Willow, Just Food, were all up to date on their understanding of how testing is administered, what are the criteria, the screening guidelines, all that. And so I just I'll be following up with our partners at the health department just to make sure that I have the most up-to-date information for our group. And Tiffany Lewis did a great job representing what Heartland is doing. But again, I just want to make sure that we're on the same page with the health department and giving the right information to our congregate site groups moving forward. And that's all I have. I'm happy to stand for questions.
Thank you, Jill. We'll move on to 4, Julie or Andrew.
I don't see Andrew jumping in there, so I will. RS4 has ceased meetings as we've transitioned to the Education Unified Command. And that group meets twice weekly, and all of the same educational organizations are included. We're discussing all of our school reopening plans in that group, working on coordinated health and safety guidance for all of our educational organizations, and trying to match needs with available resources. Andrew, do you have anything else to add? Maybe not.
Maybe he's not there.
Do you want to add anything?
Andrew said his mic isn't working. He just posted in the chat.
Okay.
That's about it then.
Well, thank you, Julie. I know we're all waiting for that very important document to hopefully get finalized on guidelines. But so I know that's a big deal. Most of us here are on those calls anyway. So hopefully by Thursday. If there's nothing else for education here, Jeremy or Brooke, do you have any more on finance?
Robert, this is Brooke. I don't have anything additional to add. No, thank you.
Okay.
This is Jeremy. I don't have anything to add either.
Okay. Does anybody have anything for finance in the group? Thank you. George, do you have an update for us from the PIO?
Sure. As far as the recovery, like we said, I think Carrie and Lindsay have been doing most of the work as far as sharing information about the process with the public, just as everyone's watching now at county commission level, and then Lindsay with the round 2. And then just as far as the, a lot of our other public information has focused on just our case situation, that kind of that response, our response as a community, sharing as much information and data as we can as our day-to-day situation. And then just continue to hit those key public health messages that people need to practice as individuals, wearing masks, compliance with health orders, social distancing, washing your hands, stay home if you're sick, how to get tested if you qualify. And then we did start, this was part of our, I believe, the health and medical reimbursement request for August, a public information campaign. The first part of that started last week, geared at the college-age students. So it's kind of the initial messages about, you're in our community now, these are our expectations of how you can be smart and safe, wear a mask. So that'll expand as we get up through the month, but it just wanted to let people know that that's underway. And there's another part of that piece too with coming later this month, where the target audience is parents of K through 12 students. So those are all, that's all ongoing in progress and kind of expanding as we go out. The last piece, I just want to thank the Unified Command leadership for their help with that. We have an editorial submitted to the Journal World that's set to run tomorrow morning in the paper about just basically saying, yes, as leadership, we are aware that as more college students from KU and Baker come from across the state, across the country, it's likely that we will have more cases, and just kind of laying the context for that as younger, healthier individuals. The important thing is, even if we get more cases, the important thing is we have a plan to handle it on many different levels, as far as working to isolate them within our public health infrastructure, the contact tracing, encouraging everybody to keep those individual health practices. So, and just the great collaboration that's been going on in this group and everybody from the beginning. So that's scheduled to run for Wednesday. So thank you again to everybody for their help with that. I don't have anything else.
Thank you, George. Anybody have anything for PIO, George or Carrie? You said that's going to come out tomorrow. Is that what you said? That editorial?
Yes, we submitted it, and the Journal World said they scheduled it to run tomorrow. So,
George, is that the one? Is that the one we shared recently?
Yes.
I just thought that was a great piece. I thought the tone was just right. Kudos to you and your team for doing that.
No, thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Charlie, logistics?
Nothing to report.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Any questions for Charlie? Casey, do you have anything, or any of the equity impact advisors that they would want to share?
And just a reminder that we did put out the link to the video for folks who weren't able to attend one of the shared learning opportunities. So hopefully people have had a chance to look at that and to let Jillian and Robert know when you've done that. And then our team will be turning our work towards kind of next steps, debriefing the process and kind of looking again at our tool to see if there are tweaks that we could make that might make that tool more useful just in the general work of our RSFs. And then if our proposal is awarded, beginning the work on getting that implemented.
Great, thank you.
Hey, Casey, this is Jill. One thing I wanted to make sure I brought up, we talked about it. I think I don't know who I brought it up with last, but one of the things that we talked about in RSF 3, when we were doing our reviews of round 1 CARES Act proposals, one of the suggestions that came out of our group was for the plans and the projects organizations that are funded, to maybe ask them to continue to engage on issues around equity and provide some opportunities for continued education and engagement to make sure that they're continuing to do that work and understand what our goals are related to that and the role that they play in it. So that's just that was an idea that came out of our group. So just food for thought. Our equity advisors, Leah or Kara, may have already brought that back to you all, their larger group, but I thought it was a good idea and I wanted to pass it along.
Thanks, Jill.
Anybody from the coordination team, leadership, have anything to add this morning?
We have a follow-up article from the county commission being solicited by the LJW just on the funding requests, and I think specifically some of the considerations around the more surveillance testing side of things. So I've talked with Dr. Scrimshire and a couple of others. Dan, I just sent you an email with some thoughts on that, but I think, Robert, it's pretty positive overall and just a little more information gathering. I don't expect any, anything untoward.
Great, thank you, Russ. Okay, well, again, just to recap, the commission's going to meet at 4 tomorrow for a work study session to talk about CARES Act funding. And then again at 5:30, they'll talk about it during their meeting. They also have a budget conversation during that meeting. And then on Friday morning at 8 o'clock, we'll hold a special meeting to finalize these things. And then you guys can all listen in if you want to hit the link on our website. And we'll meet again next Tuesday if there's not heartache about that. And then we'll go back to an every other week schedule from that point on. I love it. 30 minutes. So, thank you. Hey, everybody have a great day. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Robert. Thanks, everybody.